Madam Mayor, we are live and recording. Please proceed when you're ready.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our regular meeting for May 20th. Before we begin, just to go over a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, the meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. I feel like this looks different for some reason. I don't know what. It is being recorded to the YouTube channel. We do have participants joining us from online as well as from within the chambers. So council and staff, as is always the case, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak on a matter and I will call on you. And just another item to note, we have, as part of our 2026 updates to the council chambers, we're making changes. And one of those changes is a new microphone system, audio system. So for council and staff, when you are speaking, it's critical that you do speak into the microphone, that you have your microphone on rather, because it's directly wired into Zoom now, as opposed to separate speakers or separate microphones. So people on Zoom and online won't hear if your microphone isn't activated. So going through the agenda, we'll just call the roll. Of course, we have Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor Watt, Councillor Johnston, Councillor Vervoort, is he online with us, Madam Clerk? Not yet, okay. And of course, myself, Mayor Heather Watson, and then joining us on the staff bench, we have our clerk and deputy CAO, Martina Chait-Hartwig. We have our treasurer, Paul Kramer. And joining us this evening is our legislative services assistant, Anu Mendepa. Good afternoon, welcome. So with quorum of council in attendance, I'll call the meeting to order, beginning with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the lands which are part of the 1818 Treaty 20 and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe bands of the Great Ojibwe Nation. We offer our gratitude to the Ojibwe for their care and knowledge of the lands on which we work, live, and enjoy. May we honor and respect their teaching and our treaty obligations as we grow together. And moving on, just for a moment of silent reflection, please. Okay, moving on. The agenda, of course, was distributed to council in advance of the meeting. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing nothing. We do have an update on the agenda. The clerk has notified me that on item 8.3, a delegation from Kevin Arrington, he has contacted us this afternoon and withdrawn his delegation. So with that change, we're just looking forward adoption of the agenda. Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Watt, all in favor. And that motion carries. Thank you. On to adoption of the minutes and business arising from the minutes. We have our regular council meeting minutes from May 6th. Just looking for a motion to receive and approve those. Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Watt. Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to our consent agenda. There are two items that are sitting on consent. Is there any item that council would like to hold for discussion? Seeing nothing, just a motion then on those, please. Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Johnston. All in favor? And that motion carries. Okay, so we are moving forward with our delegation, our first delegation this evening from Michael Kaczynski. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thank you, with a request for road improvements on 8th line. Mr. Kaczynski, please make your way up to the lectern. Please be sure to turn on the microphone so folks online can hear you as well.
Okay, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I see new faces and some old that I already know. My name is Michael Gisinski. I'm the owner of the east half of Lot 17, Concession 7, Douro-Dummer. With the previous council, we have asked to allow us to conduct studies on the road allowance to see whether it's feasible to construct a road to the property. And it was granted at the time. We've done a lot of work. We've done the survey on the road allowance. We've done some studies. As the As the survey showed, the property lines were exactly as we thought it is. And after a pause in the progress, recently I have spoke with Martina and advised her that we would like to continue with this endeavor. And since there is a new council, I would like to ask you for a permission to allow us to continue the studies in order to find out whether the road improvements are feasible by the Conservation Authority. And afterwards, with you guys go. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We're gonna have a few questions for you, I think, so
Yes.
just
Go ahead.
please stay where you're at. Just want to get clarification on your request, and there was a number of attachments with this. So,
Yes.
I recall I was on council when this came forward, last term. And the motion was, so council, this is, item number 5 in the attachments, if any of you are looking to reference that. The motion at the time was to receive the report, receive the request, and that we wanted, council of the day wouldn't be making any decisions until an environmental impact study is complete. And then a subsequent motion was made in December same year regarding a request to survey that be received, and that to proceed with the survey work was approved while the environmental study is being completed. But
Correct.
prior to council deciding on the request to complete the works on the unopened road allowance, that the requester be advised that the work will be done at your expense and at risk. And a copy would be produced, paper and electronic. So,
Correct. Yes.
so just so that, so you've gone ahead and done the
survey and
survey.
both the impact, environmental impact study. The only thing is that because of the discrepancy in the mapping, we've done 95% of the proposed road. Now we have to do the remaining 5.
Okay. And that's,
And provide this to the Conservation Authority for the review.
okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Council, any questions of our presenter, Deputy Mayor Nelson?
Yes, through the mayor. Thanks for coming today. And I have read all the report. My question surrounds around the pond and your property lines.
Right.
I believe that what you're proposing or what you've proposed so far, if I'm just trying to get clarification.
Sure.
So what you're proposing so far is that the road allowance would be opened up to the pond? Is that?
No, to the property line. To the property line, and there is gonna be a terminus at the end with accordance with all the requirements of the municipal requirements. And the terminus, I will deed the necessary 10 by 30 meters to the township. Yeah, it's gonna go past the pond.
So it is going past the pond?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. And you have not gotten Orca approval for that?
Well, not as of yet. I need to provide the remaining 5% of the road, which is that part. The Beacon Environmental will do that environmental study for the remaining portion, and we're gonna provide it to the Conservation Authority and seek a permit from them. Yes. So at the moment, I do not have a permit. We did get a permit for grading at the lot from the Conservation Authority, but not for the road improvements as of
Okay.
yet.
Oh, okay, so I guess maybe I'm misunderstanding the request.
The request is basically, well, let's put it this way. I have stated my intentions to continue this project with Martina. Martina advised me that there is a new council, then I should speak in front of you and ask you for whatever I want, right? And I'm asking that you guys would allow me to continue the study in order to find out whether the road is feasible or not. And the Conservation Authority will deem that, right? It's a little bit tough process. You have to go all the way to the end to find out whether there is something there or not. Like, I know that's a risk, but I guess that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Okay, thank you. I understand.
Thank you.
I just turned it on.
Councilor Vervoort has his hand up. I didn't realize you had turned yours on. So we'll let Councilor Vervoort speak and then over to you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Vervoort.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Through you, just a couple of really quick questions of our presenter here. Have you spoken with Orca to see about kind of a preliminary discussion or
Yes, of course.
assessment of?
Yes, we are
Okay.
in contact with Donald Allen from the Conservation Authority. We had more than one meeting already. Yeah. We have their
Wha-
input. We know what they want.
With that initial discussion, did they appear favorable to the request or?
So according to them, I must present the environmental study first, and then they're gonna make a decision on it. Without the study, they cannot make a decision.
Thank you. I guess my main concern is like we are running up against wetlands, and you've got a pond there. And the last thing I would like to see you do is spend a lot of money on a study only to be turned down. And
Yes, I really appreciate your concern. This is my concern as well. But at the moment, my family cannot enjoy the property. And by constructing a road improvement that leads to the property, my family would be able to enjoy the property. And this is a great deal for me. It's very important for me. And this is the risk that I'm willing to take. Because like I said, without continue this journey till the end of the path, none of us, unfortunately, can actually know whether it's possible to do or not. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Vervoort. Councilor Johnston.
Yeah, through the chair. Michael, got a couple questions. Like the survey or like the original plan there wasn't in the right place.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
okay.
not. The GIS mapping showed that
mapping.
the property line started before the pond. And the survey, which should be the true source, shows that it starts only after the pond. It actually starts in the middle of the pond, but
So my question to you is that you would be going, you're not touching the pond, so you'd be going around the pond. Is that right?
unfortunately, it's impossible to go around it because around it I have the neighboring properties, and nobody wants their land to be taken away from them, understandably.
So at the end of the day, you want to be going through the pond.
That is correct, sir, yes. And this is something that we have spoken with the Conservation Authority. And according to Don Allen from the Conservation, there is a way of getting it done.
And the pond obviously dries up in the summertime.
Oh, yeah, it's like a swamp. Summertime, it's completely dry. Whenever it's the wet season, there is water, standing water.
And this is for the road, but potentially down the road, you probably put a residence on that. That's your intentions?
Potentially sometime, yes, but
Okay,
not
so
at the
not-
moment,
not
not
right
at the,
now.
not right
It's
now
just
at
to get
all.
the-
Yes, not
Just to get access to the.
correct. Yes, sir. Yes, that
Thank
is
you.
correct.
Councilor Watt.
There, sorry, appreciate that. Thank you very much. I guess like everyone else here, my question is what is Orca gonna say about the pond? Like did they give you any suggestions on
Yes, they
how
did.
to get across the pond and?
Yeah, basically by constructing a road across the pond, but in order to get an approval from them, they said that perhaps cash and lieu would be the proper choice
Hmm,
for them.
Okay, it almost like, to me anyway, it almost seems like, you're asking us to do something first before they even
Oh,
say.
no, don't get me
No,
wrong at
okay,
all.
that's fine, because I
Don't-
just don't wanna, I don't wanna jump the gun here and say, yeah, go ahead and do it when Orca hasn't given you a final you know, yes, you can go across that pond because Orca's pretty sticky. They may just turn around and say, no, you're not touching that pond, and then you're back to square one again, so.
I know, I've dealt already more than a few years with Orca. I know the people there. They're actually very nice people. I don't know why you say that.
Right.
But yeah, they have to follow the rules, of course, and I'm also all about following the rules and all the requirements, even for the minimal requirements for the road. I also agree with it,
Right.
and promise to follow through if such a permit is given in the end. But yeah, like I said before, it was already discussed with the manager at the Conservation Authority, and they said that there is possible ways of doing it, but first we have to provide them with the remaining environmental impact study that will show the impact on the pond.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, look, we've got that.
All I'm asking from you at the moment is for your allowance to continue the study, and that's it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Again, thank you for your comments. I just, like all my colleagues here, I'm really worried about you getting down this road or going in this road
Yeah.
and you find out Orca and you've spent all this money. And that's what I'm concerned about for you.
I
not-
appreciate it, sir.
uh,
Thank you.
Just because, and knowing what, I've been around a little bit and knowing what they probably asked you to do to get through this pond
Mhm,
or possibly the impact of that.
mhm.
But please ask for some dollar values of what they would be actually looking for. I'm not in any way, shape and form against you moving forward with studying this and bringing that more information back to us. But I certainly caution you on how much that might typically
Yeah.
cost you.
Yeah,
So,
I realize
or,
that.
and still not get what you want out of
Yes, sir. I am very well aware of this, and like I said, thank you for and your concern on this matter. I really appreciate that you're speaking truly, that you're in concern of something like this could happen, and it could, but we will never know until we're gonna reach the end of the path and provide all this work. And like I said, it's a risk that I'm willing to take. I'm already, listen, we already spent. We already did most of the work. We already spent for the survey and the studies and a lot of stuff, right?
If, whenever the mayor is ready, I'd be willing to make a motion.
Councilor Report. Last question.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor Watson. I think Deputy Mayor Nelson has pretty much reiterated what I was about to say, and just that I think this might just be a colossal waste of money because putting a property line through a wetland is something that is incredibly frowned upon these days. So putting a road through a pond seems even more unlikely. I'm not opposed to people trying and spending money to do so. As you say, that's a risk you're willing to take, but be fully prepared for a no, because I think that's what the answer is going to end up being. And with that, I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Thank you. Listen, I don't have much of a choice, actually. I have a goal that I'm willing to follow, even if it's not gonna be feasible, I'm still willing to follow it. And I realized that the answer might be no at the very end. After all the work that was done, after all the money that was spent, there is a good chance that I will get a no in the end from the Conservation Authority. But like I said, it's either I stop everything and don't do anything and don't even attempt to reach my goal, or I do attempt to reach it, and there is a chance that might be successful.
Thank you for that. I have a couple of quick questions,
Sure.
but before I ask you of those questions, just over to staff for a moment. Deputy CEO, if, fast forward, let's assume that council approves Mr. Kaczynski's request to do further work on the unopened road allowance, and that Orca greenlights the project, and Mr. Kaczynski's willing to move forward with undertaking whatever work to mitigate that. What's the next step in the process? It comes back to council, correct, to approve opening up the unassumed road allowance? Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So if those steps were completed, then Mr. Kaczynski would bring back the approval from Orca along with his studies back to council. Council could then approve the opening of that road allowance, and then he could begin the actual road building process under the supervision of our manager of public works.
And then as a follow-up, and I'm just pulling from my recollection of recent similar requests. So once those studies are done, there's a process to open up that unassumed road allowance, which would involve a public process potentially, or is like where we're notifying the neighbors?
That public process has already taken place. Past council had asked us to do that prior to any of this additional steps taking place. So that's already been completed.
Okay, so I guess the question then that council really needs to also be aware of is, further to the comments of us, or my colleagues suggesting, Mr. Kaczynski, that we don't want you to spend the money and go down this path and take that risk, a risk that you're willing to assume. It will come back to council for ultimate approval. And the question is, for those of us who are concerned about you going down the path, like if it gets that far, are we effectively pre-approving this for you? I know you're not asking us for that
Yeah,
approval.
I'm definitely
And that
not
might not
asking you.
come for another 2 years out at this rate,
Who
potentially.
knows? Who knows? Yes.
But that's something that council will want to take into consideration, what that process looks like, I think, before weighing in on this and the expense and the risks that you're burdening.
Yeah, and like you said, if I may comment, if it does come to the scenario that I really hope that it does come to
That's
the
your best case scenario, I
that's the best
understand.
scenario, yeah. In that case, of course, I will come before the council and ask for the actual permit. But at the time, if everybody gave the green light already, I don't see why there should be a problem, right? Aside from that, as per the previous council, if I'm not mistaken, Martina perhaps may correct me, the township did not want to take any responsibility in the maintenance of the road, and which I am also okay with then and now as well.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. This would become a constructed roadway with a constructed roadway agreement. The township would not be maintaining this roadway.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, I think we've talked a lot. We've asked a lot of questions. Thank you very much, Mr.
I'm
Kaczynski.
glad to help, and and it's very nice to see you all again and to meet you here as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Deputy Mayor Nelson, are you still wanting to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Mr. Zelinski's proposal on moving forward with looking at Orca and seeing how that shakes out for you, and then come back to council with them results so that we could make a decision further from that point. Does that make sense?
I have 2 microphones on at a time. Does anyone want to second that motion? Councillor Johnston? And any discussion on the motion? Councillor Watt?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks again. We're doing our best to try and work with you, and it's a tricky situation for sure. So, and I'm happy with, and I think the intent here was that you would work on up to the pond. But then once you hit the pond, Orca has to give the approval, stuff like that. So that's basically we're letting you
Not exactly.
proceed on.
Yeah,
No?
not exactly. Orca had to give their approval even if the mapping was correct. So all the way even to the pond, this is all under Orca's control, not control.
Jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so even without the newly discovered boundaries and lot lines, I would still must obtain a permit from the Conservation Authority.
Any other discussion on the motion? Then we'll call for the vote. All in favor? That motion carries. You're
Thank
good.
you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. If,
All right.
if you don't mind just turning off
Turn
the
it off. Yes,
microphone,
I will.
thank you very much. You too, thank you. Okay, on to item 8.2. We have a delegation from Mr. Edwards on Demers Road, oh, on behalf of the Demers Road residents, request removal of dead trees. The floor is yours, sir. And just a reminder that it is a 10-minute presentation. Of course, there is opportunity for questions afterwards, and whenever you're ready.
Hi, folks. My name is Wayne Edwards, and I'm here representing the 7 residences that live on Demers Road. We put in a couple calls for service requests to the township to have the dead trees along Demers Road be cut down and removed, but have been turned down, stating that the township does not maintain Demers Road. These trees are a health and safety concerns, as limbs and branches fall down quite often, as well as entire trees which block access in and out of the road. We had an entire dead tree 2 weeks ago fall across the road, blocking it off completely, which resulted in one of the residents to come out and cut it up and free up the passage. Several of the dead trees are encroaching the hydro lines, and it's only a matter of time before this causes a problem, resulting in loss of power on the road and possible live wires on the ground. Back in 2015, the township came in and removed a number of trees for the same reason, and we request that the same be done this year. Council has already acknowledged that these trees belong to the township, and as a result are liable for them to allow safe passage of emergency vehicles. Demers Road generates approximately $25,000 a year in revenue, which is more than enough to cover any costs incurred of having these trees removed. Residents have seen the township trucks in our road multiple times, and it's obvious that the township is aware of the state of the trees in questions. Once again, we are asking for the township's cooperation to keep Demers Road safe by having these trees removed as soon as possible. That's it.
Well, within the 10-minute limit, thank you very much. Any questions from council? Councillor Johnston.
To the chair, I guess my first question is, in 2015, when we said we went in and removed trees, I wonder why we have a problem now compared to when we did in 2015. I guess that's my question, and it's not fair to anybody to answer the question because probably nobody here to answer it. The roads department would be, but and maybe Harold from the past might be able to.
Clerk might, or clerk, our deputy CAO, I believe, got briefed on the file prior to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So there was a request that had come to council, a previous council in the past. Staff was not able to action that request because it didn't fall, the road didn't fall under the roads we maintain. The request had to come to council, similar to us today, and council directed staff to remove those trees.
Any other questions from Deputy Mayor?
Oh, thanks. And something further to that was they put a limit on the amount of budget that was spent on that for them trees. I was the manager of public works at that time. But Wayne, thanks for your presentation. I was up and took a look at the road. I wanted to just go in and take a quick look with other stuff that was going on. And I can honestly say, with the storm that we had this year and where we are at with the township on all of the issues that we have to deal with the amount of trees that are down, I was on my way up to Highway 28. There's more issues on Highway 28 on a provincially highway than what we have on Demers Road. I will personally say that, and I think that I'm not saying your request is not invalid. I'm saying we have a lot bigger issues within our township and with this last storm and cleanup and money wise. And to say that we're going to go up there, we've already passed the budget. It doesn't mean that we don't want to look at this maybe for another year. But to say that we're going to jump on this right this year, I can't see it. We have more irons that we need to be working on that a lot more dangerous, I would say. Having said that, I think that we do have a responsibility to look after them trees that are township trees. I do agree with you there. But to honor that this year, I think that's extending it a bit. I think we could maybe even ask staff to go back up and take a look and tell us maybe how many trees they feel that need to come down. And I would feel that staff would be able to come back with a report on at least the dollar value that maybe we could look at helping relieve that for another year, maybe, so that we could budget for that. I know we're in a deficit this year with removing trees, that's for sure, just because of the storm. So that's my comments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Before Councillor Johnson asks his question, just a quick question to the clerk. I'm so used to calling you clerk. You're a deputy CAO this evening. I believe staff in advance of this meeting were asked to go and take a look and assess the trees to see specifically what might be of concern. Do you have any information to report back on that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The fire chief did attend the road this morning, so I'll just read you his statement. So on April 2nd, during our storm assessment, Demers Road was noted at meeting the 12-foot high, 10-foot wide temporary emergency access assessment. I drove the road this morning and based on the existing private road criteria, observed a few spots where some overhead clearance could be increased by branch trimming. From the recent ice storm, there are only a few spots where leaning trees or overhead broken limbs may become an issue in the future and should be monitored and trimmed as necessary.
Thank you, Deputy CAO. And just one other quick question before I hand it over to Councillor Johnston. Mr. Edwards, sorry, noted in your delegation that you made a request for this to happen, and now you're here doing this. We have the call for service form is as part of our agenda package, but it's not dated. When did that request come through?
If you give me one moment, I will look that up for you.
Thank you very much. While you look that up, Councillor Johnston, you were going to ask a question?
Yeah, thanks for the chair. I understand what Harold said and I totally agree with him. Before I heard the information that someone looked at it today and that's good. So I mean, we're hearing that there are a few branches that need to be addressed, especially ones on the hydro lines. They're right there. So I mean, whether or not we can, or how soon, I can't speak for the roads department and their financial statement, but all I can say is that we would take that advisement and put that down, that we would certainly look at in the near future. That's all I wanted to say.
And are we still looking for that request? Mr. Edwards, do you know when you submitted the request?
I didn't
Oh.
put the dates down, but there was 2 of them submitted.
Okay.
I got just another comment. Obviously with the storms we had, especially the ice storm, that's put everyone behind, every township around. And then of course, all the arborists and all those crews, they can't keep up as well. So we're not asking to have this done next week or right away. We understand completely. And it's not just branches. We have a ton of dead trees. We have ash trees. We all know the ash is dying. We've got huge ash trees that are going to fall. We got bitter nut trees that are dead. They're coming down. That's the one that just fell 2 weeks ago. So these trees are coming down. That's our biggest concern, is the big trees. We've been clearing out that road for, well, I've been there 25 years. That's how long I've been doing it, and clearing that stuff out as it is. But our ask is all this big stuff that's going to be coming down, these big trees, we don't want to have to be doing it. And we know you people don't want us doing it. So what do we do here? Like, you guys have said that the trees belong to the township. So we'd like the township to get rid of them at some point. You know, but in the meantime, when stuff comes down, you got seven people living there. We got to get in and out. So we can't just call an arborist up, same thing as Harold's talking, and, you know, they're not going to come over right away. So it's left to us to do that. And I don't know if that's a liability that you folks are willing to take on. You have for the last 25 years that I've been there. So, you know, again, we're willing to work with you people. We just want you to understand that there's a situation down there and we'd like you to help us out with it. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the 2 dates we received the calls for service were April 21st and May 5th.
Thank you very much for just clarifying that. Okay, council, what would you like to do? I feel like everybody's asked lots of questions and got additional information. Looking for
I'll make a motion.
Councillor Johnston.
Thank you for your request. I make a motion that, that we have the roads department, put this on their list and, visit it as soon as they can to see if there's any immediate danger, and then proceed down the road at a future date to, continuing. If removal is the thing to do, then do what they have to do. That's their department.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Does anyone want to second that motion? Deputy Mayor Nelson, any discussion on the motion? Oh. Our deputy CEO is looking for clarification on the motion. Councillor Johnston.
Councillor Johnson through the mayor, could you just repeat your motion?
I just said I would like our roads department to, revisit I think the fire chief went down there today, you said. So I'd like the roads department to revisit the situation we have. And if there's any danger to any of the lines, maybe to consider them being done sooner than later. But as far as removal of the trees, maybe put that on our list. And then when they check it out, if there's something needs to be done in the future, then we have that on our list.
And Deputy Mayor, you seconded that? Okay. Any discussion on the motion?
I have one more question.
Sure.
So if we have a large tree come down and blocks our road off, should we call the township? Do we take it out ourselves?
It looks like we're seeing a yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor?
Sorry about that. Just one thing to also keep in mind, our people, if there's any trees that are close to the hydro lines, we can't touch them. And so hydro would need to be called, but our public works would be able to set that up. But again, it's a time frame right now. A year from now, probably be a lot easier to get this stuff work done fairly fast, but just with what's happened, and I'm sure everybody can respect that. So I just want to just bring that to the forefront that we cannot touch trees that are next to hydro lines. And if that's the case, why Jake or our public works department would get that set up. So just to give you that information.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Deputy Mayor. All right, any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. You're on your way, Mr. Edwards. Thank you. Okay, on to item number 9, public comment period. I believe we had somebody register to speak. I don't have that agenda in front of me though. We do, right?
Yes, April Hope had registered to speak to item 12. Oh my gosh, I apologize. I was not using the microphone. Through you, Madam Mayor, April Hope had registered to speak to item 12.3 on the agenda, which is a letter from the ministry. But I don't see her in the room.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So Ms. Hope is not here for that, unfortunately. So we will move on to item 10, staff reports. And we have our report and capital project status of May 2025. And just looking for any questions of staff on that report. Hearing and seeing nothing, just looking for a motion to receive that. Deputy Mayor Nelson, does anyone want to second that? Councillor Watt? Councillor Johnston?
I just want to speak on for 1 second. Trying to find that here. The work to be done this year. We're going to be revisiting, I can't see it here, the ATVs on the road. Do we know when that might happen, Martina? And would that be also in coordinate with the OPP of how they have checked it out? That was the way it was last time, that we would wait and see the response after a year if there or here it is here, ATV upgrades. So that's it, it's gonna be done this summer, like are we in the fall? We're gonna bring that up, are we? I wonder.
Madam Clerk, are we looking at the same report?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Johnson. I don't believe that's on our work report, but I can touch base with our CAO when he returns and report back to council.
Is that the council chamber AV upgrades?
I put a T in there instead of that slash. Anyways, I would like to see something like that brought forward at the end of the year.
Okay, well, since that's not on the report, we can just move that forward perhaps under other business at a future time. Councillor Johnston, any other questions on the report that's in front of us? And we have a motion to receive the report already on the floor. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to item 10.2, community grant requests. Mr. Kramer, over to you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. For you's report, Treasurer 2025-13, which is regarding community grant requests for May 2025. There are 3 requests in this report, each of which are greater than $750, so staff do require council direction on each request. The first request is from the Douro 200th Anniversary Committee. They are requesting $2,500. This would cover event costs for the Douro 200th Anniversary event scheduled for July 4th, 2025. And more specifically, this grant will cover rental costs at the Douro Arena, which are estimated to be about half the request of $1,250, as well as operating costs such as insurance, washroom rentals, and other related expenses to the event. The second request is from the Kawartha Lake Stewards Association. They're requesting $1,500, which will cover a portion of the $5,000 cost to produce and publish the annual lake water quality report. Just a quick note on this one. In the conclusion in my report, it mentions the County Plowmen's Association, which is a typo. Must have been reading something else while typing, and that should reference the Kawartha Lake Stewards Association in that conclusion. The third request is from Morton Health Community Center. They are requesting a portion of the 2025 municipal taxes. It was indicated in the application that the funds requested will be used for capital expenditures aimed at reducing the organization carbon footprint through the Peterborough Green Up Association.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. From a procedural standpoint, are you looking for one motion that touches on all 3 or 3 separate motions? Either option is fine. Okay, so let's break this down, I think, one by one, if that makes most sense with council. Thank you. So starting with application number 1, the Douro 200th Anniversary Committee request. Council, what would you like to do with that? Councillor Johnston, and then
Yeah, this is a one-time deal, 200 years, the anniversary that I'm totally in favor of this. It's there's other areas that are doing big things, and I think we want to be recognized that we recognize this adventure that they're taking on for the 200th year anniversary. I'm totally in support of it.
thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Revort with your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Just to echo Councillor Johnson's comments there as well, I would like to make a motion that we proceed with the funding request amount.
Thank you. Anyone want to second that motion? Counselor Johnston, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. On to application number 2 with the Kawartha Lakes Stewards Association. Council, what would you like to do with that? Deputy Mayor Nelson? With your microphone on, please.
Get on to this, yeah. I'd like to make a motion that we don't grant what we've granted in the previous years, not to increase it at all for this year.
So
Yeah,
just to clarify, $1,000.
just clarify $1,000, yeah.
So a motion to approve $1,000. Anyone want to second that? Counselor Report?
I'll second that, please.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Deputy Mayor, unless you're going to speak again, please turn off your microphone. On to item number 3, or application number 3, the Morton Community Healthcare Center. Council, what would you like to do with this one? Counselor Report?
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Through you, I would like to turn aside this request. We are quickly approaching the budgeted amount for the year, and the purpose of this this application would be to reduce the organization's carbon footprint. And although that's a very honorable cause, given our budget restrictions, I don't think that it's in the budget this year.
Okay, so.
I would like to make a motion to turn aside.
Okay. And does or Deputy Mayor Nelson, you had your hand up. Were you going to speak? Did you want to make a motion, or did you want to make comments before we pull that motion?
I was going to make a comment. I believe that they come to us earlier in the year and asking for this, a request to help them out. And at that time, or during the budget, we turned them down at that time. And this, I feel this is like a double ask all in the same year. So that's my comments.
So it sounds like you might be seconding that motion
I
to
am
decline.
seconding that motion, yes.
Okay. So now that we have a motion on the floor and seconded, any discussion on the motion? Counselor Johnston?
Yeah. Dollar wise, I don't know, but I do think we got to continue supporting the healthcare center, the Morton Healthcare Center. You know, it's in our township, and it's very important that this continues on. I know in the budget time, we said it wasn't our mandate, but where there's help, we can do something. I would like to do something. So I'm not in favor of canceling it.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Seeing nothing, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to item 10.4. Oh, sorry, 10.3. Sorry, procurement update. Mr. Kramer, back over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before you is report Treasurer 2025-14, which is procurement update as at May 20th, 2025. The report is recommending that Scotch Roman Motors Limited be awarded the contract to supply and deliver the pickup trucks for Public Works and Fire and Emergency Services. The award is for $127,843.89. However, we are estimating a minimum of $10,000 on the sale of the current trucks through Gov Deals. That would mean that we would be under the budgeted amount of $120,000. I did want to note that we did only receive one bid on our tender process here. We are able to, through our system, see that there were 6 vendors who took the bid. Can't explain why people didn't bid. You know, we don't have that information. People don't submit why. So we did assess whether or not we should go back out to market to get more bidders. Just given the current economic climate with tariffs, and especially tariffs in the auto sector, staff are recommending to proceed with the proposed trucks, given that they do meet the specifications that the departments need and that they are within budget at this time, and who knows where we could be in the future.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Kramer. Council, any questions of staff on that? Councillor Watt?
No questions, but I'm going to make a recommendation that a motion that we follow the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Does anyone want to second that motion? Deputy Mayor Nelson? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Now on to item 12 or 10.4, Peterborough County OPP Detachment Board remuneration. Mr. Kramer, back over to you.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. One last time. 4 years report treasurer 2025-15, and this is regarding Peterborough County Detachment Board remuneration. The recommendation is that council approve the, if I can say it correctly, remuneration rates for board members as outlined in the report. The rates are $100 per board meeting. This is consistent with other county boards. And also this amount will fit within the budget that was brought forward to council a few council meetings ago. And within the budget amount that we budgeted during our 2025 budget process.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. And just to clarify, this is solely for the community appointees, so members of the public who are appointed to the board as per the act, and provincial designation, provincial appointees, correct?
To you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct. That's my understanding of the report.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, as it sits, I believe the elected officials who sit on that are compensated through their existing compensation committee plans, depending on the individual municipalities. Any discussion or questions on the report? What would you like to do with it? Councillor Johnston,
I'll make the motion that we follow the recommendation.
who would like to second that, or is there somebody who'd like to second that? Deputy Mayor Nelson? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to, I'm going to call you Madam Clerk now because it is clerk's report. Our clerk on item 10.5, alternative voting methods for the 2026 municipal election.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sadly, my report is not going to be as quick as Paul's. But today I'm bringing you a report regarding our election, which will be held on October 26, 2026. In anticipation for this and in order to proceed through the procurement process, staff are seeking direction on the preparation of a bylaw in accordance with section 42(1)(b) of the Municipal Elections Act regarding alternative voting methods to be used in the 2026 election. To enable us, or to enable the township to use alternative voting methods, a bylaw does need to be passed before May 1st of the year of the election. But we'd like to bring this to council early so that you can evaluate all of the options at hand. So there are three main voting methods used in Ontario municipal elections: electronic voting, internet and telephone, paper ballots with tabulators, and vote by mail. Since the 2026 election, the township has seen voter turnout range from a high of 36.9% in 2022 to a low of 31.82% in 2024. I'm going to go over some options. Please feel free to ask me to either leave out information or include, but I think these are just some important considerations for council to be aware of. So the first one we'll talk about is electronic voting. With electronic voting, voters receive their voter information letter in the mail, providing the date of the voting period, voting website and telephone number, and their personal unique voting PIN. Electors can visit the website or call the telephone number anywhere or anytime and enter their PIN and birthday information as an additional security feature in order to cast their vote. At the close of voting on election day, the electronic system will produce cumulative totals of all votes cast, and the totals will be compiled to produce the final election results. Electronic voting, including the use of internet and/or telephone voting, has been increasingly implemented across Ontario municipalities. Electronic voting modernizes the election experience for voters. It offers a convenient, accessible, and secure way to cast a vote without needing to attend a physical location, and it inherently offers flexible voting times. In addition, with the ease of casting a vote, it is easy, quick, and secure for the election administration staff to issue new PIN letters should voters not receive or misplace their original. This also offers additional benefits such as the integration of accessible technology and enabling voters to identify errors in their ballot selection prior to casting their ballot. This voting method also allows for automated election processes like online ballot processing, striking names off the voters list, and an effective and rapid count of the votes at the time of closing. Douro-Dummer voters are familiar with this voting method as it was solely used in the 2018 and 2022 elections. For voters that still prefer to attend a physical location to vote during the voting period, the municipality will continue to set up a help center in the council chambers during the advanced voting period. And on election day, we will hold the help center in the town hall. There are some cybersecurity risks with electronic voting that need to be mitigated. When choosing a vendor for electronic voting, it is important to be part of the process is to receive information on the voting system security features and perform testing well in advance of the election. Staff recommend electronic voting as it would be the most cost-effective and inclusive option for the municipality. It serves a variety of voters, including persons with disabilities, seasonal residents, business travelers, snowbirds, students away, in addition to our permanent residents. Another option for town council to consider is paper ballots with tabulators. Paper ballots with tabulators is an in-person voting method that requires the voter to attend the voting station to vote. Ballots are marked by indicating the voter's choices, and then the ballot is inserted into the tabulator. The tabulator reads and records how the ballots are marked and stores that information in the unit. At the close of voting on election day, the tabulator will produce cumulative totals of all votes cast, and totals will be compiled to produce the final election results. The use of tabulators has become a generally accepted alternative vote counting method in Ontario municipal elections and has also been used for the recent provincial election. As a result, there are established and recognized best practices for municipalities to effectively implement tabulators along with vendor protocol, including step-by-step guides, troubleshooting, effective accuracy testing protocols. The system is precise, easy to use for voters, and capable of generating final election results very quickly following the close of voting without using manual counting. As a voting method, paper ballots with tabulators requires significant election staff resources. And speaking to neighboring municipalities who have used the hybrid voting methods, so that would be paper ballots being used on election day and internet and telephone voting using during the advance period, they have had additional work to be completed as managing the two different voting methods through the entire voting period was cumbersome. There's also significant staff time to dedicate to programming and getting trained on the tabulators, as well as coordinating the two voting methods to occur simultaneously. For the use of any vote or vote counting equipment or alternative voting methods, the clerk is required to establish procedures for their use. Updating the existing procedures to include the tabulators will increase the time it takes to produce those documents. Additionally, there are limited suppliers of tabulators in Ontario. Dominion Voting is one of the largest suppliers, and their equipment is reserved quickly, with larger municipal clients having their orders fulfilled first. Tabulators were used in the 2022 municipal election, which were shipped from the US, which may be impacted by tariffs and possible issues with cross-border trade. The use of paper ballots does not allow the voter to vote anywhere at their leisure, and therefore convenience is an issue with this voting method. This is especially important due to the high seasonal population of Douro-Dummer, specifically at the end of October when seasonal residents are not typically here in the community. Additionally, paper ballots do not provide the same level of accessibility as voters with visual and physical disabilities may find it difficult to vote if required to vote in person with paper ballots. The use of paper ballots and tabulators in the 2022 municipal election had an additional cost of just over $7,000 for neighboring municipalities. Another option, which is not in my report, but I just wanted to bring forward, is solely doing paper ballots with a manual hand count. So if that was the case, we would not be able to offer 13 days of advance voting as we typically do, as we would not be able to staff a paper location for that length of time. We would anticipate needing a minimum of 5 staff per voting location throughout the election day. The election day runs from 8:30 a.m. till 8 p.m. Plus, we would need additional time after that to hand count the results. That means that the results would not be available potentially until the day after the election. We'd also need to factor in the time and costs of hiring and training election staff, as we would need more staff than what we could borrow from the existing staff, while also ensuring full services in the office. Staff are not recommending vote by mail. There is some information in the report, and if council wishes, I can review that. Staff are seeking direction on which voting method and which vote counting equipment or alternative methods to proceed with for the 2026 municipal election. Based on that direction, staff will prepare the necessary bylaws for adoption at the next council meeting. Just to provide council a little further information, many of our neighbors in Peterborough County have completed their decision-making process on this. Trent Lakes and Havelock Belmont Methuen have chosen to go with a hybrid option, so they'll be using internet and telephone for advance voting, and then paper with tabulators on election day. And then all of the other municipalities are only going to be using electronic, so internet and telephone voting. So happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for your report. Any questions from council at this point in time? Looking for questions. Are we prepared to make a decision? Deputy Mayor?
Look at that, I'm getting trained on that. Turn that switch on. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My thoughts on this is I'd like to see us almost follow like Trent Lakes and Havelock. Throughout, ever since electronic elections by mail, electronic has come in, I would say the majority of people, or I'm going to give the age bracket from 40 to 85 or 90 within this township, has specifically different times have told me, especially when it comes around to election time, that they do not trust electronic voting for whatever reason that might be. I think the younger people, they're okay with that. And I think even a lot of people that are residents outside of our residents from Toronto, or our lake population, or people that just come here on the weekend that own property, or whatever that might be. They do use electronic because they don't have the time to come and physically fill out a ballot. And I believe that too, and it isn't everybody that has a computer or the stuff to actually do it, or they feel scared of the electronic stuff, but they're scared of that, even though we do have the ability for them to come here and staff to help them. So I personally, I think I'd like to see that we have that combination of the both. And after looking at your numbers, Martina, how many people actually do electronic? I don't think it's that many people that would be doing a paper ballot. But having said that, why don't we give them that option? And the more people that we get out to vote, I think the better it is for every election. So that's my thoughts. Whatever everybody wants to do with it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other discussion on this? So I see Councillor Revort's hand.
Yep, go ahead.
Councillor Revort?
Thank you, Mayor Watson, through you. I just wanted to clarify with Martina that electronic voting in this case represents both internet and telephone voting. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Revort, that would be correct. The electronic is internet and telephone based.
Okay. The reason why I ask is that just to follow up on Deputy Mayor Nelson's point, when we do talk about electronic voting, it does include telephone voting. I remember voting by telephone in the year 2000, and I think that was the first time I voted by telephone. And I think I have done it pretty much that way every time it was available. So, although I see the appeal of still keeping paper ballots with a tabulator, it is $7,000 for collecting 125 votes. which gets pretty cost prohibitive. If there's, I think there is someone else with their hand up, but I'm more or less in favor of leaving things just as they are right now and not spending any more money or doing anything differently.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Vort. Councillor Watt had his hand up also. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Yeah, I the same as the deputy mayor have had a lot of residents say, you know, I want to go back to paper. I want to go back to paper. I like going into the voting station, see my ballot, put my X on it, make sure I put it in my ballot box, and I'm done, kind of like that. And not that it's part of the deal or whatever, but it can be a social time for some people that haven't seen their neighbors in a long time either, but that's not part of the voting thing. But I do really think I'd like to see the paper for the most part, but also have an electronic component for the cottagers that don't come down or that aren't here at that particular time. And I think we can wangle that. Looking at the stats, I think it says, you know, turnout for Douro ward in 2022 is 42% and almost 42% in the Dummer ward. You know, so you figure out a 7,200, that's, you know, maybe between 2,500 and 3,000 voters across the whole township. So even if we had people count them by hand, didn't get the tabulators, I think we could still handle it. And you know, the people don't get sworn into office the next day. So, I mean, the results the next day aren't going to be the end of the world, kind of like that. So that's where I'm sitting on it.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Looking for questions. I have a couple of questions. Thank you for your opinions. Looking for questions. I do have a couple of questions. If council doesn't have any questions at this point, I have a couple of questions afloat. I don't want to jump in ahead of anyone. That's okay, Councillor. Madam Clerk, if to your point on the paper ballots, you had referenced 5 staff on election day would be required over that 12-hour period, and that the election results may be delayed. Can you just speak to what the counting and delay would be caused by, like why it would be potentially delayed?
Absolutely. So through you, Madam Mayor, it's not so much that they would be delayed, but if every vote was to be manually hand counted, that would take time because it is a dual check process. That's how we can ensure that each vote is counted appropriately and checked to make sure it's recorded appropriately. So that process would take time, and it may go late into the evening. So results may not be shared with the wider community until the next day.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. So basically, when you're giving us that, it's based on kind of, I don't want to say like a worst case scenario, but based on like if the entire municipality were to shift from electronic voting to paper ballot.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. I want to provide every option.
Okay, thank you. And then, sorry, I'm not done with the questions. And then the number that you have in your report of $7,000 for paper ballots and tabulators, which was another municipality in a neighboring, in a neighboring municipality in the last election. So that was, just to be clear, they had effectively an electronic version before election day, and then on election day was only paper, or was it still both electronic and paper?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the community that I used as an example, they participated in the same RFP that we participated in. So I knew what they had paid for their electronic voting system, and then I asked them what they had to do, set aside for the tabulators and the paper votes. What they did is they had the internet and telephone voting run from the advanced day all the way till 8 p.m. on voting day, and they combined the results. So they had an in-paper option, or people could continue to vote internet and telephone if they were not able to visit the in-person location.
Right through until the polls closed.
That's correct.
Okay. And then you gave us a verbal update there about the other neighboring municipalities as it relates to the upcoming election, and Trent Lakes was it Trent Lakes and Havelock, Belmont McLean, and they're doing basically exactly what you just described?
That is correct. So Trent Lakes used this method in their past election in 2022, And so they use the internet and telephone voting from advanced voting day all the way up till 8 p.m. on voting day. And then they had the paper ballots available on voting day, and they had a full election set up in their town hall to run that process.
And Havelock Belmont Methuen.
Havelock Belmont Methuen has just decided today to use that method for their 2026 election.
Okay. And then one final question, when it comes to a voting place for paper ballots, those two municipalities, is it, again, thinking about costs, you were talking about five staff on election day for paper. Would that per location? So the other municipalities that are doing this, are they having one centralized location? It sounds like Trent Lakes is doing that.
From my understanding, they are each choosing to have one paper location.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watt, with a question.
I do have a question. Thank you very much to you, Madam Mayor. If we do the split and do the paper and the electronic, how on election day with the paper one, do we know, like, let's say that the voting station is upstairs here, how do they know that someone hasn't already voted electronically?
Absolutely. So through you, Madam Mayor. Those who may have run for council in the past may note that we use DataFix as our information management system during the election. That provides the candidates access to the voters list. And so what we would do, of course, we still need to make procedures. So I'm just providing this information based on my knowledge of how others have done it, is the electronic votes are immediately entered in DataFix, which then gets updated in Simply Voting. So that's how those pins and vote codes get stricken off the list. And then as people come in to file a paper ballot, if that's what they're choosing, they would come to almost a reception desk. They would get their paper ballot there. The worker at the reception desk would then highlight their name. When they returned to put their ballot in whatever collection method we happen to use, they will strike the name off the list, and that will prevent them from voting in both systems.
So in striking that off the list, just as a follow-up on that, then it's removing the pin, so they can't vote in paper and then go home and vote online.
That is correct.
Understood, thank you. Any other questions from council? Oh, sure. No? I thought you were, sorry, I thought we were being motioned over towards you. Maybe I missed you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so anybody want to take a crack at a motion? Councillor Watt?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to make a motion that we do the split, that we do the paper on the day of the election, and that we also offer the electronic up to the times that Martina had specified, 8 o'clock on the election night, whatever, by electronic vote. So that will catch our cottagers and so part-time residents. I don't know what else you want to call them. And yeah, and as far as the counting, I'm kind of betwixt and between on, like I say, with 3,000 votes across, and a lot of them could be electronic. We may not have that many to count manually, but I'm thinking if we can't get try for the tabulators maybe, and if we can't get them, then we go with the personal count method, if that's fine for a motion.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor, or the motion has been made that we use electronic voting for the advanced and an election day, and also have paper voting for election day at one location or multiple locations.
It's a pretty big township. I know when it was just, I think, Dummer Ward at one time, I think there was probably 4 or 5. There was the east end of the township. There was one up by Crow's Landing. There was one down here. I can't remember how many there was, probably at least 3, 4, maybe 5 different ones. And now that we've amalgamated with Douro, I think we might need more than one, at least, 4 or 5 across the whole township would be my suggestion, but
So you want that
So-
in the motion?
yes, please.
And the tabulation, which is where I was gonna go with this, or counting the ballots, to try and get a tabulator, and if not, we'll explore hand counting them. Okay, so that's the motion that's been made. Anyone want to second that motion? Counselor Johnston? Counselor Johnston seconds that motion. Okay,
I got a question
with a question.
to the chair. How many voting stations did we have last election? Can you remember?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Johnson, we had a help center in our boardroom during the advanced voting days. And then on election day, we used the town hall as a vote center where people could come and use the kiosks we had available either to vote on a laptop, a tablet, or a telephone.
So we didn't have paper last time?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have not used paper in my time at the township.
So this time we're suggesting we use paper. Right. Okay, but the last term, it went well without that? It seemed to, didn't have many complaints on paperless? We didn't have paper last time, right?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there were comments both in the 2022 election and the 2018 election from various members of the public about their concerns with the internet and telephone voting. We did receive those comments and those were passed to council. There was a post-election report that had come to council and those comments were included in that.
Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Revort, but first, no, okay, Councillor Revort.
Thank you, Mayor Watson, through you. A question on the number of voting locations on election day. If we went with 4 or 5 locations, would we require 4 or 5 staff at each of those locations?
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, if we had multiple locations, each location would need a number of specially trained staff. I imagine we'd want to have the same style team at each location to ensure that everyone is receiving the same service. I'll just make a note that today's decision does not need to include the voting locations. That can be decided later in the election planning process.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Watson, my one concern, of course, then comes down to staffing. Like we're going to have to take people out of pretty much every department in the township if we wanted 4 locations to have 20 people trained to have multiple locations. I guess where I'm coming back to as well is even the kiosk, which involved people getting in their car, driving to the township office. It was for 125 votes. Telephone voting has been in place in municipalities for 2.5 decades at this point. I can understand that there's still some apprehension around it, but it's pretty well proven technology at this point. But I do empathize with people who still want to use paper as their preferred voting method. I think that having one central location for paper voting makes more sense than multiple locations, and hand counting ballots on election day would likely not be too onerous of a process. Granted, it would take a bit of extra time, but let's face it, if there's only 150 votes cast by paper ballot, it won't take that long to count them.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll take a moment then to speak to the motion. I believe that the more access people have to voting, the more we can encourage and get people out to vote. I think that we do need to have electronic voting, specifically, not just for our for our seasonal residents and non-permanent residents, but also for people who live here full time that might be away on vacation and can't get to the advance polls or business travel or even ill in the hospital, may need to have that support to be able to vote electronically. I do think that paper ballot is an option that we could deploy, probably through one location at the town hall, and perhaps still offer the kiosk in the town hall as well. So people have the option to still come in on election day or for the advanced polls and get assistance through the help desk to be able to cast their ballot online if they so choose. I kind of think of it like a a self-checkout at any store that you go to, and depending on how comfortable you are and how long the line may or may not be, people can have that option still. In terms of tabulation, whether it's by hand or tabulator, I'd be curious to see whether or not we can get a tabulator and the cost of that versus the cost of training somebody and putting that policy or process in place to have somebody hand counting or individuals rather hand counting. So I mostly support the motion that's on the floor, but not specifically as it's worded. And certainly I have respect to my colleagues who have made the motion and seconded that motion, but I support it, just not with the multiple locations ultimately. So on that, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I kind of agree with the amount. How many places do we need when, if we look at the statistics of how many people come here to the office to vote, that's kind of for their help or for our staff's help to get voted electronically. I'm totally in favor of the motion, except for maybe the amount of locations. Maybe if we can come to some kind of agreement with that, maybe a couple locations instead of 4 or 5. I think we're doing overkill for maybe the amount of people that would actually go that day and vote, but I don't know.
Councillor Watt?
Thank you. I'd be willing to amend my motion back to 1 in each ward. I think that would be fair. We are a 2-ward system, one here and maybe one at the fire hall in Donwood or somewhere in Douro, whatever. I mean, to catch that into the township. I guess we could get away with 1, but I would like to see 1 in each ward at the minimum, but I would definitely change my motion to 1 in each ward, and we'll see how that one flies.
Madam Clerk, can you remind me who seconded this?
Councillor Johnson seconded the
Councillor
motion.
Johnston. It's like, maybe Councillor Johnston needed to be reminded too. I don't know. So the amendment? Okay, any discussion to the amended motion? I will speak then again. I'm still apprehensive location selection and where it is. I think ultimately, if the clerk noted earlier that we don't need to necessarily have that information at this point in time, and let's see what staff come back with. Because I know that location selection, at least in provincial and federal, I've been involved in some of those in the past. From a logistics standpoint, there's certain considerations from an accessibility that's required as well, and also safety and security for staff, and that's just required under the law. So I don't want to encumber staff with any specific locations. So I still don't support it as it is. I'd rather leave it off, frankly, and let staff come back to us with a report, because this isn't the first time we'll talk about it. I think at this point, staff are just looking for direction on whether or not we're going to be using electronic and or paper or any combination of that. And this won't be the last time we talk about it, that's certain. So with that, I will call the vote on the motion. All in favor? And that motion carries. Okay, moving on. I think we're moving on. Yes, we're moving on to committee minutes and other reports. We have the library board minutes. Oh my goodness, sorry, I skipped right over. So yeah, 10.6, the joint RFP for legal services. And Madam Clerk, that's back over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report that's before you is seeking direction from council to enter into agreements with Arid Burles and Hicks Morley Hamilton Stewart Sorry LLP for the delivery of legal services for the township for a 5-year term with an option of 2 additional 1-year terms. The township of Douro-Dummer, along with the county of Peterborough and the townships of Ashford-Norwood, North Kawartha, Otonabee South Monaghan, Selwyn, and Trent Lakes, participated in a request for proposal for legal services in early spring 2025. The County of Peterborough issued and administered the proposal. The proposal requested bids to obtain qualified legal services on an as-needed basis without a retainer for a 5-year term with an option of 2-year additional 1-year terms. The areas of practice that were investigated were general municipal law, municipal finance, taxation and assessment, environmental law, real estate law, construction law, municipal planning, labor and employment law, civil litigation, and tax registration. 17 bids were received, providing a range of services. The bids were reviewed in accordance with the scoring matrix in the RFP. After the evaluation process was complete, successful proponents of the RFP are Aird Boilers LLP for all areas of practice except for labor and employment law, and Hicks Morley Hamilton Stewart Sorry LLP for the practice of labor and employment law. These two firms are the firms that we currently use for our legal services.
Thank you for that. Any questions of staff on the report that's before you, Council? Councillor Johnston.
I'll make a motion that we follow the recommendation with the two groups that is identified.
Okay, does anybody want to second that motion? Councillor Watt? Any discussion on the motion? Before I call the vote, Councillor Johnston, you got a little ahead of me. A question in terms of the 17 bids that were received. Were any of them from local law firms, local, even in the broader sense of, you know, greater Peterborough area?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there were no firms from the Peterborough area. There were firms from Kingston, Hamilton, and Toronto.
Thank you very much. So with that, I will call for the vote. All in favor? And that motion carries. Now on to item 11, committee minutes and other reports. So we have 11.1, the library board minutes from March 11th. Just a motion to receive those. Councillor Johnston will make the motion to receive. Councillor Vervoort, are you seconding that? Yep. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? That motion carries. Peterborough County OPP Detachment Board meeting minutes from March 24th. Looking for a motion on those. Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor Wolf with a question.
Just a follow-up, seeing you're on that board, Nut, how is it going with the new transition?
It's going well. The board is now at a point where the monthly meetings, which is what's been kind of ramping up, have been changed to the legislative requirement is quarterly. There's a little bit of a challenge with getting the quarterly reports from the OPP detachment. They're supplying them, but because of our meeting cadence, it's not, our quarterly meetings aren't really lining up with the OPP, their time in pulling them, because they've got to wait till the quarter to over and then they pull the report, and then we kind of are getting those reports almost 3 months beyond, so halfway through the year, but they're working on rejigging that, but the board seems to be coming together. There's some challenges with our First Nations members that are being worked through with Solicitor General and our First Nations members, Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations. I believe there are some meetings underway so that they can be sitting at that table as originally intended. Yeah, everything seems to be moving forward. So we do have a motion on the floor to approve those. Did somebody second that? And it was seconded. All in favor? And that motion carries. On to correspondence, item 12.1, City of Orangeville, responsible growth in opposition to elements of Bill 5. Council, what would you like to do with this? Councillor Report.
I'd like to make a motion to receive.
A motion to receive is on the floor. Anyone want to second that? Deputy Mayor Nelson? Any discussion? All in favor? That motion carries. Township of Russell, resolution regarding USA tariffs on Canadian goods. What would you like to do with this? Deputy Mayor? A motion to receive from Deputy Mayor Nelson. Anyone want to second that? Councillor Watt. Any discussion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing Bill 17, Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act. This is item 12.3, Council. What would you like to do? Councillor Vervoort.
I'll make a motion to receive.
And does anyone want to second that motion? Deputy Mayor Nelson. Any discussion on the motion? I will speak to this. I would like to do a little bit more than receive. Support isn't really the right word either. I think that there's a lot of proposed changes as it relates to development charges and changes within the building code and changes within the planning policies to absorb. And they're calling, Minister Clark is calling for input from the public, but as well potentially from us on the ERO, which is where the province obviously gathers feedback. I think it would be prudent for us to actually have staff take a look at some of those proposed policy changes and report back soon, because the deadline on those are different times over the course of the next couple of months on areas of impact to Douro-Dummer Township, so that we can make some decisions on whether or not we should be commenting, and if so, what the nature of those comments should be. Councillor Vervoort has his hands up, and then Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mayor Watson, through you. I will amend my motion based on your comments there. I think they're quite valid. So I would like to amend this to receive this and direct staff to investigate any aspects of this legislation that may impact the township.
Okay, and I believe the original seconder was Deputy Mayor Nelson. Are you okay with that amendment? Thank you. Councillor Watt, you had. Councillor Watt's good with that. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Thank you for that. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to bylaws, reports. I'm just skimming down here. Item number 15, notices of motion. Any announcements? Item number 16, Councillor Watt has a question.
Did you not table the notice of motion last?
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there were two notices of motion tabled at the last meeting, one from Madam Mayor regarding the revenue generated by the bottle return program, and then a second one from Councillor Johnson regarding a roads tour. They'll be on the next agenda to vote on.
Thank you. Good catch, Councillor Watt. Any other, sorry, where did it go? Oh, notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion beyond those two? So then into announcements. Announcements, Councillor Watt.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The 2025 first of the household hazardous waste events is this Saturday at our Halls Glen transfer station. And it runs from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. And they accept items like aerosols, antifreeze, automotive fluids, batteries, cleaners, cosmetics, fertilizers, that type of thing. So pass word around, but it comes up twice a year, and I think the next one may be in the fall, whatever. But this one is this Saturday morning, May 24th. Oh, and the other one is August 16th, but that's fine. And it runs from 10 till 2 at the Halls Glen transfer station, and it runs through the county.
Councillor Watt, I actually have a hazardous waste in my garage. I was thinking I needed to move on. Councillor Johnson.
Just a quick question. Tom, do you know, do they take propane cylinders at that time? I think they do, don't they? Yeah, okay.
My mic isn't on. Oh, it was. Okay, I was nervous for a second. Councillor Johnson, the cruise nights are starting again, I believe. The Lions Club cruise nights, and I think the first one is happening tomorrow night right through summer. Do you want to speak to that a little bit more? You have those details better than I do.
Yeah, as long as it's not raining, we start tomorrow. Well, the food will be available at 5 and go on till 7:30. I don't think we're having music tomorrow night. We're just having the cars. And that's something that is requested that we try it again. We didn't get too good a response in the last couple of years, but they're going to try it again, and only just once a week on Wednesdays, weather permitting.
Weather permitting, and that's right through all summer until Labor Day weekend, basically?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Mark your calendars. Thank you. We have no closed session. We just need our confirming bylaw. Deputy Mayor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Vervoort. All in favor? That motion carries. Our next regular council meeting is June 3rd, and we have a committee of the whole meeting coming up on June 18th, just as reminders, and we're just looking for a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor Johnston, all in favor? And that carries. Have a great night, folks.
Thank you.